station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
Tonight on DC News Now at 6, a family finding a way forward after tragedy. Hear from family members inside the home that caught fire after a tanker truck overturned in Frederick. Plus, presidential plans. What's next for former Governor Larry Hogan as the Republican Party looks to rally? And the pandemic 3 years later, COVID-19 cases found in Maryland. We're looking back on the day everything changed.
And really not much has changed in the weather department. We've still been a little bit breezy out there this afternoon, but at least the sun was shining. We'll talk about that if that trend will continue into a start of a new work week. Randy?
All right, Scott, thanks. Good evening. Thank you for joining us for DC News Now at 6. I'm Randy Bass. We get right into our top story tonight. A family is left to pick up the pieces after a devastating fire in Frederick, Maryland. Some of them were in the house Saturday when a tanker crashed on Route 15 and exploded. Those flames spread to their home nearby. DC News Now's Katie Reese spoke one-on-one with one of those family members about what comes next.
Sadie Hernandez moved to the United States less than a year ago, and in less than a year, she saw her home in Frederick destroyed. The house along Apple Avenue burned after a tanker left Route 15 and crashed, exploding near the house. The driver then died. Now Hernandez and her family have nothing left but the clothes on their back.
It really frustrated me a lot because I did come here for a better life. And the fact that this happened, I don't know, it's really hard for me. It's hard for me to make sense of what happened.
Sadie, her uncle, and her cousin were home when the tanker exploded. They, along with others, want more safety measures in place so this won't happen again.
I would like for it to be more secure, so cars wouldn't have access to the road that is in front of my house, because it's really dangerous. Because there's no protective barrier. It's only trees.
In a news conference Saturday, Mayor Michael O'Connor mentioned there are plans to expand Route 15 and potentially put in more safety measures, but those might not come until 2028. Some neighbors say it's too little, too late.
Yeah, it needs to be now, because they could always move the barriers later.
There's a lot of places that don't have guardrails, there's no walls, and I'm like that, everything's wide open, so something like this happening could do a lot of damage and kill a lot of people. The guy did the right thing. He was a hero. He saved a lot of people's life coming this way. Could have been worse.
Sadie told us the American Red Cross helped put her family up in a hotel for the next 3 days. But after that, they don't know where they're going to go. Reporting in Frederick, Maryland, Katie Ree, DC News Now.
All right, Katie Reeder, thank you. Staying in Frederick, one person is dead after they were shot by police. This all happened around 6:30 last night on Northeast Street. Officials say police were searching for a person who was wanted for a parole violation. The police chief says that person had a knife, refused to put it down, and then charged at officers. Police shot and killed the man. Right now, officers are still investigating.
I'm unable to release any other details at this time out of respect not only to the family of the deceased, but to the investigatory process. We have to let the IID do their job from here.
Chief Lando says that officer immediately tried to render aid, but they were not able to save the man. He was unable to confirm how many officers fired their weapons or how many rounds were fired. The person shot and killed by police has not been named. And Congress tonight cracking down on fentanyl. Senate Republicans introducing a bill to make the Drug Enforcement Agency's temporary controls on illicit fentanyl-related substances permanent. But as Washington correspondent Jesse Tenor reports, not all lawmakers are sold.
Losing Logan was like a bomb going off in the middle of our family.
Erin Rockwall lost her 19-year-old son to fentanyl poisoning, which she warned is now a leading cause of death for Americans 18 to 45.
And the kids are getting younger.
And we must save them because they must have a future.
Both House and Senate committees took up the country's fentanyl crisis this week.
Enough is enough.
South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham reintroduced a bill that would make the DEA's temporary controls on illicit fentanyl-related substances permanent, a move Attorney General Merrick Garland supports.
All fentanyl-related drugs should be scheduled permanently.
Mandatory.
And Rockwall agrees, saying class-wide scheduling would deter new versions of the deadly substance.
How can you focus on theoretical rights of criminals over the rights of our children.
But Texas Democrat Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee argued the bill could make racial disparities in the prison system worse, instead of finding ways to stop drug addiction.
We cannot incarcerate our way out of this.
While efforts continue in Congress to fight the fentanyl crisis at the federal level, Secretary of State Antony Blinken is asking the rest of the world to help.
No country can tackle this problem alone.
At the G20 conference Thursday, Blinken said countries can work together to disrupt supply chains and take down transnational criminal groups.
This is a law enforcement and security issue, but it's fundamentally a public health issue and an increasingly global one.
In Washington, I'm Jesse Tenor.
Jesse, thank you. Also developing tonight, another train derailment in Ohio. 20 cars of a Norfolk Southern train derailed in Springfield, Ohio around 5 o'clock Saturday. According to the train company, there were no dangerous chemicals on board that train, and there have been no reported injuries, unlike the derailment in East Palestine. And happening now, the Centers for Disease Control preparing to spend $5 million to improve access to health care in certain areas of the country. Could impact almost 60 million people. The new Office of Rural Health would provide resources to those smaller communities. Those areas have seen hospitals shut down and providers move out of their areas. Mississippi Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith proposed that idea. She noted how the COVID-19 pandemic drew attention to the gaps in rural health care.
When the rural areas don't have that access, by the time they get to a specialist in a larger town, their problem has grown and it's so much worse.
The CDC is currently in the early stages of setting up that new office. It hopes it becomes a one-stop shop for connecting federal resources and local providers. And today marks 3 years since the first cases of COVID-19 were confirmed in the state of Maryland. That day, now former Governor Larry Hogan told Marylanders the first 3 cases were confirmed in people who had been traveling abroad. The governor said in a tweet that day, March 5th, 2020, I encourage all Marylanders not to panic, but to take this seriously and to stay informed as we continue to provide updates. Less than 2 weeks later, businesses and schools would shut down across the country. And in the district tonight, COVID centers are expected to close at the end of the month. That's according to a recent announcement from DC Health. This comes in response to a significant drop in COVID cases, high vaccination rates, and the increase in availability of at-home testing kits. The center's purpose was to provide locals with free and easy access to COVID vaccines and tests. In total, the COVID centers provided over 1 million free masks, more than 80,000 doses of the vaccine, more than 400,000 rapid antigen tests, and nearly 40,000 PCR tests.
I did give it serious consideration. I talked to people everywhere, and I talked to my family, and it was a tough decision, but I've decided that I will not be a candidate for the Republican nomination for president.
New tonight, former Governor of Maryland Larry Hogan announcing he will not be running for the Republican nomination for president in 2024. In the same interview with Face the Nation, Hogan said he thought long and hard on the situation, talking about it with family and friends on whether it was the right choice. Ultimately, he decided it would be best to step back and not run for office. He also said fewer nominees gives the party a better chance of nominating someone other than former President Trump, whose policies Hogan has spoken out against. And the former president made his appearance at the Conservative Political Action Conference, or CPAC, yesterday. While there, he threw attacks at the current Republican Party, but did not name any of his opponents in the race for the nomination. He also laid out plans for a planned second term, intent on finishing the fights he started in his first.
We're going to complete the mission. We're going to see this battle through to ultimate victory. We're going to make America great again.
And in a separate interview with reporters, the former president stated that he plans to run again, even with pending federal investigations. And this year, CPAC was held at Gaylord National Harbor in Prince George's County. Our Jimmy Alexander talked with attendees about their hopes for the 2024 Republican nomination.
For the last 49 years, the Conservative Political Action Conference has had conservatives from all around the country gather to discuss the future of the Republican Party. And believe me, there is one topic that is top of mind to everybody here. Who should be the next Republican nominee for president?
There's only one candidate, and that's President Trump. No one else matters.
So what happens if he's not the nominee? Could you support the other?
He will be. We're not supporting nobody else but President Trump.
So definitely on the Trump train this cycle.
Okay, who would you like to see be VP?
As long as it's Trump, honestly, I trust his judgment. Kristi Noem, she seems pretty cool.
I'd like to see Donald Trump nominated.
And how about VP?
Maybe Nikki Haley.
You're out of Yellowstone. I like it. I don't know if you're Rip. I don't know if you're Kevin Costner. Whatever. I like it. But next year, who would you like to see be the nominee for the Republican Party?
Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley.
Yep.
And how about VP?
Vice President?
Yeah.
Donald Trump.
Now, do you think Donald Trump would really be a vice president?
Probably not.
Who would you like to be the nominee coming up in 2024?
President Trump.
President Trump? And if he isn't the nominee, could you support somebody else?
No.
So who would you like to be the presidential nominee next year for Republican Party?
Well, I'm running. I'm running as the only candidate to get the country back on track. So I'm looking forward to taking my discussion and my platform against former President Donald Trump, Governor DeSantis, and anyone else that goes for hat in the ring.
Now, you look young. Are you 35 yet?
I am. I am 36.
Okay.
Thank you. That's why I put the grays in on the side.
Tell me who you would like to win the nomination next year for the Republican Party.
Of course, Daddy Trump.
All right, our Scott Sumner joining us now. Scott, a beautiful weekend. Are we going to carry that into the start of the work week?
We sure will here, and as far as the rain is concerned, because we could certainly use some additional rain here. It's been a little abnormally dry in parts of the area. We'll get some of that too coming into play. Here's a live camera look at Reagan National. As you can see, I've been sitting there watching the planes take off and land, and oh, it's been fun, a lot of fun. I always enjoy that. But at any rate, we have a temperature, a very mild temperature, 59 degrees right now. Partly cloudy skies, or mostly cloudy, or partly sunny skies at times. As far as the winds are concerned, we have been seeing those wind speeds, like I said yesterday, up to around 30 miles an hour. Take you back 8 hours right up to the current time, and now the wind speeds have lessened quite a bit. Still 22 miles an hour up in the Hagerstown area, but otherwise the winds are going to abate with high pressure building in here overnight tonight. And you see a couple of wispy clouds moving in. That's why we're calling it partly cloudy across the region, but those clouds do not have any moisture in the form of rain. That will come potentially tomorrow evening. Rainfall totals over the past couple of days have been fairly light. All of this has come in on Friday. As you do remember, we rounded out last week, so we could use a little added rain here. Tonight we're not going to get it. We're going to see temperatures that drop out of the 50s through the 40s and into the 30s by the early wee hours of the morning, and it'll be a bit breezy out there. So walking the dog tomorrow morning, well, it'll be chilly out there, but at least it will be dry for Fido and yourself. We'll have that full 7-day forecast coming up in just a little bit.